Bloodborne. Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm facing away from you, but that's only because my cloak is majestic. The obstruction of a view specter. There we go. Beautiful cloak. I'm just a real sucker for the Executioner's garb. Alright, so today we're going to be exploring the Research Hall and the second layer of the Pthumerian Chalice. Now I think we are over-leveled for the second layer and probably on par for Research Hall, so why don't we do second layer first? Alright, so brief lore touch-up on the importances of the Chalice Dungeons. Now the Chalice Dungeons are completely optional. They're sort of side content. I think they're placed here primarily from a level design aspect to augment the grind with new content, and also very interesting procedural blood gems that you can farm to make your weapons uniquely good and inform unique builds. So they are certainly a resource to be used. Now in the lore world, they do seem to have a physical component, which is located under Byrgenwerth, which we're heading towards now. But they also seem to be accessed chiefly through these chalice rituals. We found the first chalice after we destroyed the Bloodstar Beast in the Church of the Good Chalice. And we found the second chalice after we took out the Watchdog. Now the bosses in these chalices are unique. Not all of them. Or actually, maybe all of them. Now that I think about it. No. No, I guess we do have Ram and Amygdala. But the overwhelming majority of bosses that we encounter in the Chalice Dungeons are original. And so for a lore hunter, even though this is technically optional content, there really is no content that is optional for a lore hunter. Unless like it was like an obvious mechanical inclusion like a boss rush mode or something. We've activated our first 2 lanterns. And already they're trying to gank me. Got out in one fell swoop. Another gank attempt. Okay, I'm one-shotting these guys. Let's turn the HUD off and really soak in some environment, huh? Bell Maiden, gotta take her out first. Yeah, come on down here. Oh, they baited me. This guy's stronger than the other two. Okay, I can 2-shot him with light attacks. Bell Maiden, 1, 2. Okay, 2 light attacks. Ooh, better heal though. Okay, so that guy is not a blood concoction. That guy's a real corpse. Dunzo. Ooh, and they really fill this hall with these guys, don't they? Really easy to get ganked by staggered firebombs. Whew, okay, got lucky there. Got some QBs. One hitting all the skinny boys. Hey, 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 hey! Blood vials, thank you. The Chalice Dungeons are also a nice place to farm blood vials. And sometimes, if you are trying a boss over and over and over again, you will have to farm blood vials. But I find that if you're finding that you're having difficulty with the boss, instead of running your head into it, it begets you just to do a little bit of grinding. And in doing that grinding, you'll waste a lot less blood vials, because really the only time where you're going to need to farm for blood vials is when you're trying a boss fight over and over and over again, back to back to back. Shining coins. Now, shining coins are actually a pretty useful inclusion, I think, from a level design standpoint here in the Chalice Dungeons, because the nature of the Chalice Dungeons and their sort of procedural tile set that they're composed from can make it very easy to get turned around, especially because there are a lot of rooms with nothing in them, and sort of like dead ends. So shining coins, and in fact, I think I will equip shining coins here. What don't I need? I don't need a silencing blank. That means I can take the coins. Oh yeah, I didn't even have the coins on here. So pebbles and throwing knives, that's all we need. So shining coins are a wonderful way to mark, like, oh, okay, I'm going through this doorway right now. I'm going to know that I went through it already. Won't get turned around if there's a similar doorway in a similar dark room somewhere. Two hidden? Damn, two hit in the bag, boys. That feels good. Alright, let's go through this way first. What does he say? Despicable hound, therefore firearm is effective. Ah, so I think we might see... Oh, nope, this is just a regular dog. And firearms, I think, do more damage to dogs, but importantly, they stagger dogs. Dogs always fall on the floor when they're hit by a firearm, which is an enormous relief when you're fighting these creatures because they dash to the side and back so often. They really try to punish you, dashing how you normally would against a human. But if you can put them on the ground with a gun, they're just very easy to deal with. Alright, let's do a spinny move! Another one? Just barely. He doesn't move fast enough to move into my first swing, but that's fine. Okay, so we've got the first layer unlocked. Let's deal with that fellow. This light draws me for some reason. I'm gonna try this. Nope. Didn't expect it. But you can never be too sure. Okay, so this doorway dealt with. That's where the shining coin was. Ooh, got ourselves a chest in here. You have come to the right place. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? More ritual blood. Fluids. Fluids abound. And a small doorway down here that looks like it might reconnect, loop us back to the main entrance, probably. Let's see. Yep, this is where we took out the Bell Maiden. I didn't even notice that doorway because I was so focused on the Maiden. Alright, now we came in from there. There's nothing over there, so yep, only thing left for us to do. And I think this is where the level design will start sprouting its sort of corollary arteries, almost. So this is a good time to talk about an overarching lore theory I have regarding the Chalice dungeons, and bear with me here, but if you can, try to look up the Osseous Labyrinth. It's the O-S-S-E-U-S, I believe. It might be O-E-S-S-I-U-S. I'm not sure. And it is the cartilaginous. It's like made of cartilage, not actually bone, I don't think. But it's basically the casing for one's cochlea and inner ear. It's called the Bony Labyrinth. If you can, look for a picture of that. You can also find a description of this theory in short form on my YouTube channel. It should be on this playlist. It should be called On Snails, Slugs, and the Court of the Eye. But that's going to inform a lot of my theorizing when talking about what the Chalice dungeons symbolize in Bloodborne as a whole, and what their function is for the hunter, for the church, and for the ancient societies from which they're comprised. But for now, let's fight a boss. Let me keep our HUD off. Okay, so that's a 5 hit. I thought I was going to have the end of that recapture, but it looks like a 5 hit. Two, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. 5. When we're playing without a HUD, you gotta play like this. Nice, good reach. He slouches. He slouches. Three, 4, 5. There we go. So we want to do it right as 4 starts is when we want our charge attack to happen. And just because I don't have my HUD on, I'm just going to take an extra heal. I've been making a profit of blood vials and the chalices thus far anyway. Ooh, I was afraid that that wasn't going to stretch, but fortunately his hitbox is huge. I think this might signify a transformation phase, because the music has gotten a lot more active. It doesn't really transform, but he might just become aggressive and change up his attack pattern, so we need to be on the lookout for that. But this could just be an anxiety caused by the music. Oh, got there. Cinematic is... Whoa. Got ourselves a Tempering Damp Blood Gem 4. Seems like it'll be strong, and some Twin Bloodstone Shards. Sort of belying that we are a little over-leveled at this point, because now I'm looking for Bloodstone Chunks. Okay, so we've got our Hunter's Dream there. Let's go ahead and activate the next lantern, the second layer. And I think the second layer boss will be the Keeper of the Old Lords, but I'm not 100% on that. Alright, so now the arteries begin. And here's what I wanted to talk about. So, the way that a spiral is built, right, is it repeats on itself over and over and over again. It's a fractal pattern. It's a very, very simple recursive fractal pattern. There's a lot of math behind it that I don't fully understand, but one of the interesting things about it is that what the Chalice Dungeons are, essentially in Bloodborne, right, is a procedural set of tiles that all proceed through either 3 or 4 distinct layers, each layer becoming larger and more spacious than the last. And when you are, let's say, going into a snail's shell, or into the opening of the inner ear, into the spiral ganglion that is the cochlea within the inner ear, the further in you get, the larger and more diverse the chambers are. And they do this by wrapping it on themselves and by applying the same mathematics, you know, in a spiral. Now there are 3 layers of the inner ear, and at the middle of that 3rd layer of the inner ear is where we find the cochlea, which is where the sort of spiral cord lies in the ear, and that's the part of the ear that actually holds fluid by which we sort of sense our balance. So when we're walking around and, you know, because we're bipedal, we walk around and we don't fall over and we don't trip, even though we are on a planet that's moving at a certain speed very quickly in space that's moving. It's this equilibrium, this internal equilibrium is set about by the balance of this fluid that spins around in this spiral cord. It's also the origin of tinnitus and ringing in the ears. Lots and lots of... I think particularly observant viewers will start to see what I'm getting at here. But I think that the way that the Chalice Dungeons unfold in this winding path that eventually leads to a very large inner sanctum, where bosses are, mirrors in a way the sort of fractal, like Fibonacci sequence of a spiral. And spirals are quite important in a lot of the items that we see in Bloodborne. We'll get more into this as we go in, but if you can, either watch my video called On Snails, Slugs, and the Court of the Eye, or just go to Wikipedia and look up the Bony Labyrinth. And you'll see, oh, I'm going to be poisoned to death and die, and it's going to suck. And you'll see that the shape of the Bony Labyrinth is roughly big enough to fit a 1/3 umbilical cord. This is the starting point for a lot of my speculation about the actual storyline of Bloodborne, and the Chalice Dungeons are a deceptively integral part of that story, I believe. Alright, and I think because we just beat that boss, how many souls do we have? Oh, we don't have that many. Maybe we can keep going. These fuckers are tough. And I think that guy's bait. I think people will start throwing shit at you. Let's see if I've been poisoned. Alright. Yep, it looks like those... Oh, got baited into that one too. This could actually be very problematic if I don't get away from this rat fast enough. Second heal just to be safe. And then this is why I carry around a Tonitrus. That guy would probably have taken, I shit you not, like 5 or 6 hits with my transformed axe. But Tonitrus does the job nicely versus those guys. Very weak to electricity. Okay, so now I'm going to be looking at the ceiling a little bit more carefully as I proceed. I hear something else. Oh, there he is. Alright, and I like to draw my attention to new art assets as we get them. Especially because in these first chalices, we do have the levels laid out with more care and intention than in a procedural one. But I think we have something interesting going on here. We have red burning candles, not something we see pretty much anywhere else. And looks like some corpses displayed in cages. They seem to be wearing robes of some sort. Now, I doubt that you could give prisoners candles. Imagine that those people are, especially given their garb, those people are in that cage of their own volition. Looks like some sort of ritual. And they're going to try to gank me again. Bagman. These guys blend in so well because they're so skinny, and they lie on the floor, and there are constantly corpses around the floor. Blend right in. Alright, now this leads us back to the room we were in that led to the rat and the ooze. Was there anything else in here to explore? Oh yeah, there's a chest. Can't forget that. And I'm hearing some loud thuds. I think that implies that there's a chamber underneath this, and it's full of big boys. Okay, Ritual Blood 3. Importante. Yeah, okay, so let's try to predict. I'm hearing rats, and I'm hearing those big fatzos that we fight for the bosses. Maybe even a church giant? Oh, it's a rolling guy. It's a fat rolling guy, I bet. That's actually the scariest possible universe. Fat rolling guy is hard. Ooh, another door. And we haven't been over there either. Whoop, 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 whoop. Dog time. They really get you here because this is a tiny ledge and you could easily be knocked off and die from the fall damage. This is why I really appreciate Hunter's Axe, though. It's big. Oh, were those sounds coming from above me? Okay, hopefully this is a safer space now. It probably is. Whew, got lucky there. Did not expect that second one to hit that guy. Whew, took him out. I'm still hearing rats, though. Oh, nope. There's just more dudes. Man, there are a lot of dudes in this room. Okay, so I got tricked into thinking that the sounds were coming from below me. They're coming from above me. Or maybe there still is stuff below me. We shall see. Keep pressing square. Alright, now, I think it is notable that these are all distinctly feminine corpses. And we get chalices and ritual blood from them. Not a coincidence. Why don't we read the Hintertomb chalice? So we see, even as the chalices themselves are growing, whereas the first layer was just one main lead up, one antechamber and one chamber. The second layer starts with antechamber, goes into chamber, rather than it just being chamber. And at this point, we also get a branching chalice that's not from a boss. So it's branching off in an even larger fractal sense to do the same thing with the chalices themselves. So the Hintertomb chalice, a chalice that breaks a labyrinth seal. Hintertombs are the peripheral catacombs of the old underground labyrinth. Peripheral catacombs. To this day, the Watchers continue to expand the Hintertombs, unceremonious catacombs filled with graves and death, and I think a dog is nearby. Am I just going crazy? Maybe he's below? Stuck on a tree? Bizarre. Anyway, let's compare some art. Your normal chalices. This looks like a big old bowl. And honestly, if you put a chalice inside of this and then started filling this stuff up with blood or whatever, it'd probably pour over into it. So it's making me think like Hintertomb might even be a pour-over function of the old underground labyrinth, because as we know, the Watchers continue to expand the Hintertombs, unceremonious catacombs filled with graves and death. That would be the runoff, right? The extra. Interesting. Alright, let's find out where these terrifying sounds originate. Okay, so now we still have to explore underneath and overhead of the place that we came in. So we came in on the lower. Any ladder? Nope. Okay, so this is just the upstairs of that room. Looks like we can drop down here for a shortcut if we want. But there doesn't seem to be anything else to do in this room. Which is funny because really we want to drop down here. This is the only place we haven't explored. What's my health like? Cool. And it could be that there is no room underneath and that all the sounds we heard were coming from above and it was just a glitch earlier. Yep, looks to be the case. Unless there's a pathway there. Nope. And see, like, it's so tricky. The first thing you see when you walk into, and this is how fascinating level design is, when you are truly, nuanced and intentional with the way that you design worlds. But the first thing that we see when we enter here is this plethora of almost blooming oblong shapes that are clearly headstones that have been planted artistically around these pillars, but they look almost like natural formations, like things that have grown out of the ground, like upcroppings. Right? That's the first thing you see. And so naturally, when you see this sort of stuff alongside patches of grass in this well-lit area, as you walk into this section of the courtyard, you're not going to be looking as closely, and your eyes are just going to more easily associate these shapes minus light equals these shapes. And it's a subtle thing. It's a subconscious thing. But like if we look at, for instance, these two things side by side, look at the way that these things are shaped. They're shaped in little flower circles, right? Just like these things are shaped. So somebody who's not paying attention and sees unlit medium, lit other side, lit this side, both of these shapes on this side, and they're so unique, so your eye's been drawn to them, almost distracted away. You start to walk in here, and if you're not cautious, if you're too quick, you're not even going to notice that these are actually oil urns that have been thatched up, and there will be a man waiting to throw firebombs down on you, because these things are going to look like headstones in the distance, and headstones would make perfect sense here, because you've just seen headstones arranged even less naturally than this. Heck, these are more naturally arranged compared to these in terms of headstones. So I think that it's just a fascinating look into how the subtleties of level design can go to make an environment unnerving, treacherous. It plays tricks with your expectations in all sorts of ways. Okay, so that's the first ancillary passage. And I believe this will lead us to our first lantern of the second layer. Indeed. Let's look at our soul count, 22. We can afford to keep going. I think we'll probably call it after the second boss of the labyrinth. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, got my health back there at least. In fact, the Tonitrus might just be a better option in general. If it one-shots these guys. Okay, we see Big Boy and yeah, I knew I heard more than just Big Boy. One. Okay, 2 shots and untransformed. That's good. Doesn't stagger untransformed though. Important to remember. Let's see if I can get a backstab off. Look at them booty. Sounds sweet. I love gemstones. I love them. Nothing in here except a big old fatty to kill. And some sweet gemstones. And see, here we are being incentivized to play through this. Not just because it's smart to play through as you're progressing in levels so things don't get too easy. But also to power you up, fill you full of bullets and blood vials and gems so that you're stronger. Oh, this is actually a really tough spot. 2 of those witches plus a bagman is just brutal. Okay, let's see how many hits transformed Tonitrus. 3. Not bad. Ritual blood. Yeah, and it really tells you that you can't just run past these enemy twos because bagmen often are carrying vital chalice material. Everything feels like a trap now. I like how the range extends on the transform version slightly, and I think it extends by precisely the amount that the animation extends from the electricity. Spiders. No, just a bagman and maybe some sleeping fellows. They like to hide around these rooms. Tonitrus makes a good Chalice Dungeon weapon. Plus, it gets to use a lot more of the arcane gems than the axe gets to use. Alright, some fire paper, some blood vials, or no, thick cold blood. I think that's all that was up here. Wait, how could that be all that was up here? There should be more. Because we still haven't found the lever. Is there a doorway that I missed? No, it doesn't look like it. Well, then I must have missed something somewhere else. No doorway over here. Item, though. Maybe another doorway on the upstairs. Oh, yep, there was. I was too terrified to run in it because it felt like a trap. Would it have been? Maybe. Okay, so that'll just be the shortcut back down to where we killed that other fatty. And this will be the lever? Yes, the lever. Gemstones for days, baby. Alright, and a little bit of a shortcut here. And you know, I've often wondered about this design choice. I think that there actually is a point to... Ooh. Mini points, actually. Okay, so... Why wouldn't you build a staircase in a room like this? That's a great game design point of view. Number one, you don't want people to get down... downstairs. You don't want people downstairs to be able to get upstairs. So at that point, you might include a ladder that you could kick down here, right? They could have easily done that. They could have just included a ladder that you kick down here, and these rooms would have been functionally the same. However, because it doesn't have a ladder, the only thing that you can do in these rooms to get down is to jump down, which means that you're going to have to take some fall damage. So in other words, if you are really, really low on life and blood vials, you're not going to be able to take it. But jumping off and having to re-heal every time is a necessary way that you get down. In other words, the optimal way would be to go down a path that does not require you to take any fall damage, which would be easy to do, but it would take a little bit longer. So I think that there's a reason why the levels are designed in this way, because it would have been very easy just to add a ladder and improve the experience. And I think that it's meant to get you thinking of these chambers as tools, you know, as tiles to get to and from. It also does a great job of framing things like this. Remember, quick weapon. And I think these guys have some great blood gems too. So every once in a while in the Chalice dungeons, after you've killed something and left a room, a bloodsucker will appear, which I think is interesting because it implies that bloodsuckers are present not just at Canehurst but also in these areas. And so it could be that Canehurst will eventually look a lot like a Chalice dungeon. Alright, let's see if we can take this guy out. I think we could probably do it with... I wonder if we can do, like, a plunging attack. Okay, I did get the plunging attack in. Oh, damn, Tonitrus just domes those guys. Ah, and see, those guys have blood-tinged gemstones. So another link to Canehurst. Did I not actually open the fucking gate? Or did I? We'll see. I did. Whew. Alright, let's HUD it up real quick, because I need to see how many blood vials I have. 13? 13's enough. I think I can take on this next enemy. Keeper of the Old Lords. Some interesting lore to this one. Number 1, notice that it uses pyromancy and it does not seem to be a beast. Notice 2 that it's dressed like a witch. Plain and simple, no two ways about it. That's a witch hat, that's a witch outfit. Now think about Dark Souls armor design and story design. There are some pyromancy casting witches in the Dark Souls world. They're called the Witches of Izalith, and they wear hats that look almost identical to that. After we beat this Firekeeper, I'm sorry, this Keeper of the Old Lord, who was made into a Keeper via a ritual of flame, questionable, we'll be able to read a bit more about the description of this particular enemy, which is a very fascinating one indeed. Now, these are all pyromancy skills we see in Dark Souls too. We have a flame whip, we have a combustion, and we have a fireball. That was a combustion, and combustion hits hard, so we've got to get that health back. Yeah. And we see the Karthus' Arc, the flame sword, pyromancy, that also exists in the world of Dark Souls. This is why I don't understand people that insist that there is no connection between Dark Souls and Demon Souls, like between the different IPs. There's some very clearly intentional decisions that were made that I think go beyond just reuse of assets. Oh, are we going to see... It looks like they're almost at Pillars of Fire, or Pyroclasm, or whatever it's called. And look at that hand. I can't tell if that hand is on fire, or like molten, because it's like the left hand, the one that's holding a sword, or if that's just the light illuminating human-looking skin. No, you baited me. Now, I want you to think of what the dark armor looks like in Dark Souls 3 and in Dark Souls 1, the Dark Wraith armor. Have that picture in your mind. Okay, so we've unlocked everything. I think my error there was going to a short-range weapon, which requires a very different playstyle when I've been playing with this axe mostly. I think I need to be more aggressive when I play with the Tonitrus. Also, I think I can parry her a little bit more, and I think parries need to be more a part of my gameplay when I play with a weapon that doesn't have a two-handed transform. Yeah, see, those I can catch her when she repositions sideways. Like when she goes for a sidelong dash, the axe's range is still going to adapt to that. Unless I do a heavy attack. Ah, yeah, and that one's actually pretty good punish. Ooh, that would have hit if it clipped. If clipping wasn't real, which it isn't, like 80% of the time. I still don't know what that move does. I'm probably at full health, but I just want to top off. I just want to top off. Okay, so it looks like my heavy is the thing I should exploit with her. The hitbox on that attack is just insane, because I think it rolls like an actual cloud would roll. Whew, that was close. Got her, got her, got her. Boom. Whew. Central Pthumeru Root Chalice. So again, let's remember that the Root Chalices are the procedural versions. So non-canonical, we don't have to bother with those. Whew, and she gave us a blood gem. But more importantly, we'll now see that the Insight Bath also seems to interact with our progression through the Chalice dungeons. And so this gives us another mechanical, canonical thing that we can learn about what the Chalice dungeons represent in Bloodborne, and that's that we seem to get insight the more we progress through them. The messengers seem to be aware of our progression through them. And of course they are. Look, here they are right now. Alright, so first things first, let's use our cold blood and level up. I think that's all we have. Yep.
Welcome. What is it? Very well.
Nice, so we can finally get our strength to 40. Repair real quick. And let's see what those blood gems got us. So it doesn't look like anything that's patently better than our blood. Oh wait, no. Never mind. Patently better. There we go. Ooh, and another one too. Goodness. And that's not even one that relies on blunt either. That's just a full 183. Very nice. Should have gone through those earlier. Anything better in this area? No. All of the better ones, or all the other ones have downsides. They're not even better. Cool. Easy enough there. And same thing here. X110. Also only has a blunt, so it's a really nice complement, I think, to the Hunter's Axe. So the Hunter's Axe is going to be using a lot of blunt gems as well that you can just cycle them onto. Anything higher than 93? Yep, 103. 110. Or anything higher than 116. No, 116 is the highest. Cool. Fire attack up, but we don't have any. And we have our HP recovering +2. Don't need a blood tinge scaling because I don't have any blood tinge. Easy. Oh, but I should upgrade it. Oh, do I need chunks for that too? I do. Okay. Cool. I can upgrade the pistol though. Yep, still wearing the best blood tinge gem as well. Alright, so to the insight bath, because we've got a lot of insight to spend. Alright, don't need any of these, but I do want all of these. Alright, so let's take a look at our bone ash set. Alright, we have our bone ash mask. A mask made of bone ash. Bone ash. Where else have we seen that in Bloodborne? Well, we've seen it with bone marrow ash. And bone marrow ash we use to make our bullets stronger, increase our blood tinge. But we don't really see bone ash referred to pretty much anywhere else in Bloodborne. We do see like a quickening ability that comes from the old hunter's bone. There's not a lot of bone ash, so weird that it just so plainly talks about being made of bone ash. Worn by the oldest keepers. Keepers. The keepers who mined the slumbering great ones gained eternal life, preserved in ashen form in a ceremony of flame that cremated the body and soul. The long, pointed hat is a symbol of the old keepers, witches of Izalith, guys, witches of Izalith. It is considered evidence of their companionship, forged in a certain sin, witches of Izalith. The amount of Dark Souls reference in this item, from aesthetic to descriptive, is laid on so thick that you'd have to be completely tone deaf to misread this as anything other than a direct reference to Firekeepers, Pyromancy, the First Sin, Ages of Fire. I think it implies that there is quite a lot at work here. It could even imply that those keepers are Firekeepers, or that they precede Firekeepers, who knows. Let's see if there's a different one here. Okay, so this one's description says, now their frail armor is white and sinewy, a window into an arcane lost art. White and sinewy, a window into an arcane lost art. I want you to think about what the Dark Wraith armor looks like in the Dark Souls franchise as well. We have the Bone Ash Gauntlets. Same description here. And we see the Bone Ash Leggings. Same description here. Alright, so here's our Bone Ash set. So number one, the sort of armor plating that we see at work is pretty much identical to the Dark Wraith armor that we see in Dark Souls 3 and Dark Souls 1. We also have this sort of feathered kind of skirt that's worn about the legs, implying one, I think a sort of feminine bend to the outfit, which is also implied by the witch's hat. And two, look very similar to the Fire Witch leggings in Dark Souls 3 in the Boreal Valley of Earhill, or Earhill, or whatever it's called. Ehill. But very, very similar designs. And again, those are Fire Witches, is what they're called. And they're also of a feminine design. We know that Fire Keepers are all women, and that they tend to bonfires. We know that the Witches of Izalith are all women. And, you know, wore giant witch hats. Now, this armor looks sweet, but its stats, I ain't about its stats. It's got incredible physical, but its blunt is tiny. And really, I find with physical damage, you want like a good balance of blunt and thrust, rather than just focusing on the physical. So let's go back to what we were wearing, which was Hunter's Cap, Executioner Garb, I believe it was Yahargal Black, or no, it wasn't Yahargal Black, it was Charred, and it was Yahargal Black for the trousers. There we are. Alright, the final thing to do before we head to the research hall is to level up.
Welcome home. What is this? Very well.
Oh wait, we already leveled up. Goodbye. I'm sorry, I lied to you. I lied to you, doll. What I meant to say was spend the stuff that we have left over from leveling up throwing knives. Hell yeah. Alright, so Church of the Good Chalice is Blood-Starved Beast. We want to go to the Grand Cathedral. Alright, so just for a recap, last episode we went to fight Martyr Logarius and Canehurst, and then we explored a bit of the Forbidden Woods before we got to the sort of snake-infested part. Just open the shortcut there. And before that, in the lead-up in the woods, we got something called a tonsil stone. A strange beast, like half-transformed beastly man in the village preceding the windmill. Talked to us, gave us this tonsil stone, and told us to creep around to the old church to the right of the abandoned cathedral and present the little statuette of the Godhead. Let's look at this tonsil stone now. Now, Bloodborne veterans will obviously recognize it looks a lot like an amygdala's head. Interesting, the word tonsil, or that tonsil stone basically describes almond. The word tonsil refers to an almond shape. And amygdalae, like the actual glands in your brain, in your head, amygdalae, also get their name from almonds because the Latin word for almond is amygdalae. And so both of these, both tonsils and amygdala, are called what they're called because they're shaped like almonds. Now, it could also be that this is a growth of the tonsil. We're not sure where the stone came from. However, the description seems to imply pretty heavily that it's a meteorite. But it also implies that there's an odd gravitational force around it. So I think that this is a little bit of layering in some nuanced hinting in the Bloodborne descriptions, because so far, assuming a player doesn't have an enormous amount of insight and cannot see the amygdala, which are lurking about Yharnam, all that they will have seen of the amygdala is their cosmic sort of space energy. And so I think the fact that the tonsil stone describes, because if you see the tonsil stone, you won't know that it looks like an amygdala, right? Because you haven't seen an amygdala yet. And so what the tonsil stone alludes to, I believe, is it tries to draw more attention to that odd gravitational force, because one way you could describe what's happening when you walk into those spots where we know amygdala are in Yharnam is an odd cosmic gravitational force. So even the imagery that's used to describe the stone is subtly giving you a hint about what to do with it. You know, if you think about it enough, you'll be like, oh wait, subtle gravitational force? There was a weird black hole thing over there earlier. And we see that these people have transformed. Their dialogue has, at least. Yeah, the woman and the man have gone mad. The woman's scream is much longer. Well, full of pain. What up, Bagman? Did you get stronger? I thought I was stronger. Boop, boop. Come on, where's the gunman? There he is. Whammo. Yeah, you're done for. You're done for. You'll never work in this city again, because you'll be dead. Oh, I'll never work in this city again. So I'll be dead. That's right, you big brute. You big booty bimbo. Fucking church executioner. Boom, baby. Get them blood vials. Oh, and I do crave some quicksilver bullets. Not enough that I'm going to go back up there for those. Oh, those can fuck right off. Alright, so now with the tonsil stone in our possession, we have followed the man's directives. We've brought the godhead. We see this circular ritual altar displayed. Inner basin, chamber. Think back to the description of the bony labyrinth and the spiral, fractal layout of it. This bath is still waterless, and I think, especially since we just bought all that stuff with insight, our insight's not allowing us to see amygdala right now. Terrifying.
Oh, amygdala. Oh, amygdala. Have mercy on the poor bastard.
That is technically a death, so I will have one of my hand lantern. Or I guess my death was actually after the Keeper of the Old Lords. Right, and here we are in a research hall. Now, you get a weird stone that's a meteorite from a strange man in a building. Tells you to go to a church. You get sucked up into a gravitational vortex, and you briefly glimpse the hand of a misshapen god figure that looks like a demon from nightmares. You expect to go to some weird, wild, abstract space zone, not some fucking office building. But here we are, in an office building. And if we look around, we can see that there's some weird stuff in here. There's like a fetus-like thing that kind of looks like one of the celestial babies, one of the celestial infants that we'll see later. More fetuses in cages. Not a great sign. Not a great sign. Lots of jars sealed with wax. Various concoctions. Books. So definitely a hall of research. I think if we break some of these, we can find that they're full of eyeballs. Yes. Yes, delicious. Eyes. 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 Our eyes are yet to open. Research hall. Let's go exploring. So surreal. And who's this? Trigger warning for arachnophobia, you know?
What a joy it is to behold the divine. It must be such a pleasure. You're in my debt, you know. You're nigh on a beast of the field. But here you are, treading a measure with the gods.
Well, you know what? I'm going to put on a different hat. That's right. Now I have a feather. Alright, so you can't quite tell, and the full horror of it will become apparent later. But Patches is not a regular guy. And we're calling him Patches because he's the same voice actor as a guy that recurs in the Miyazaki games. And he serves a similar, symbolic purpose. He's a trickster, right? He's always pushing you into uncertain situations that you ultimately profit from. He's like a tricky little being, but he does do you good in his tricks. He trick you good. But you can sort of tell right now, but he seems to have the body of some sort of insect. We'll save the rest for later. I think I probably gave it away with the arachnophobia thing, but let's see if there's a back entrance. Nope. And I think because I want my torch out here, I might as well use my Tonitrus. It's the better one-handed weapon. Nope. This is the room that we came in from. Here we go. Sort of a science hall, like chemistry lab or something. Again, big old jars full of eyeballs. Eyeballs! And here we have a lecture hall. So not just a research hall, but a place of learning. They were teaching people learning things here and lecturing about it to others. Man just fell from the ceiling, and that student did not look well. It's letting us know. Pay attention to the ceiling a little bit. Now, I'm wondering if there's any connection to these chairs being here and me wanting to break them. Haha, there is! Now, I'm wondering if there's any connection between how these goopy monsters, because we don't see much like these goopy monsters in the game. I'm just looking for the most similar other enemy type to them. The most similar other enemy type to them would be the tomb ooze that sort of hang from the ceilings and slough down. I think that they're kind of precursors to slugs or snails. A sort of weird hybrid of a stage between man and slug, man and snail. Lecture theater key. Thank you for that. Alright, we get our first bit of lore. I think we're safe here in the back of the lecture hall. Uniform of the students of Bergenworth, the bygone Institute of Learning. This alternative lacks the thick cape. The Healing Church has its roots in Bergenworth and naturally borrows heavily from its uniform design. The focus not on knowledge or thought, but on pure pretension would surely bring Master Willem to despair, if only he knew. So it's funny, it doesn't really describe it as a student of Bergenworth. It describes it as an alternate, like an alternative to the uniform of the students of Bergenworth without the cape. And it implies that Master Willem didn't know about it, which Master Willem's the teacher of Bergenworth. He would know about these things. I wonder why it's a cape that pisses him off. Interesting. Might be because of what they transform into, but that's grasping a little bit. Let's see if the trousers say anything different. Nope. This is what they look like, though. Pretty snazzy. Alright, so let's try to find this lecture hall, huh? Or lecture theater. We found the key to it. Circular room. Okay. Pay attention to the ceiling here. I'm not really sure what a room like this is for. Like, I'd have to research ancient college design, but I doubt, like, this room doesn't seem to serve any purpose other than some sort of magical, like, mystical purpose, like a ritual room or something. It could, though. Maybe this is a way that students used to sit. I don't know. Probably be cool to be a teacher in a room like this. Just get to walk around the room. Be hard for people to see. I guess maybe... Oh, okay, this seems like a room for sound. Doesn't matter what you're looking at, but you'd be able to hear things relatively equally in here. Or, like, it does kind of remind me, too, of, like, those carnival rides, you know, where people are strapped on either side. So it could be some sort of spaceship. This might be, like, an ideal way to... Or, not... Obviously, this isn't an actual spaceship. Well, actually, this maybe is an actual spaceship, given what we learn in this game. But it could be that this was set up for some sort of centripetal ease of travel. Maybe this room was intended to spin quite a lot. Oh, maybe they spun themselves into jelly in this room. That's what would happen if you put yourself in a centrifuge and just pressed on. You'd spin into jelly. Okay, now I have to check each of these alleys. I'm not sure if the key that we have opens the layer that we'll access later, like much later, or if it opens something now. Ah, here we go. Alright, so here's the lecture theater key. And we have lots of them. Hey, man. Uncool of you. I kind of wanted to leave that one alive because he's just sitting there. It'd be a good one to look at. I think we might actually want the distance for these guys. Let's heal just in case. Yeah, one heavy from them. That's definitely what we want. Oh, man. They even have the sticky arm ability. See, this is why Willem wanted capes. You need to have something to bundle yourself up in if you're going to get all slimy. Oh, baby, that was like a 4-for-1 hit. It's getting a little bit easier each time. But I'm really not sure how much damage this does me because I'm playing no HUD right now. Sticky hand weapon is pretty good. Makes me look at One Piece a whole new way. Okay, so these guys just seem made of Quicksilver. And they evaporate after they die, too, so you can't even really get a good look at them. Is there a door on that end, too? No, just more chairs. Alright, I think we get an empty phantasm shell here. Which is a pretty sweet payoff for an arcane build. If you have been... Oh, no, it's the Augur of Abritus. It's just the Augur of Abritus. Alright. A remnant of the Eldritch Truth encountered at Bergamorth used phantasms, the invertebrates known to be augurs of the Great One. Augurs. This is also a part of the theory, so because my theory is much to do with the origin of slugs and snails and how the hunter might actually be facilitating the growth of an ancient slug-like, snail-like Great One inside of their own cochlea. This is a big part of that theory. It's described as an augur of Abritus. And an auger is something that you might use to dig a trench for a post. Burrowing into something could be thought of as like an auger is something that burrows into something. It's the only way I can think of thinking as a snail as an auger. So they partially summon abandoned Abritus, who we don't know anything about right now. The initial encounter marked the start of an inquiry into the cosmos from within the old labyrinth. And led to the establishment of the choir. So we're getting a lot of lore here. They said use phantasms. We don't know how they use it, but the fact that it's described as an auger, which implies that you are digging a hole for a post to go into, digging a hole for something to go into. Burrowing into something. And the fact that it is a slug that is described as an auger is a very unsettling concept. What is it an auger? Well, like, what is it delving into? What is it eating into? I presume it is our own brains. Alright, so there's nowhere else for us to go right now except the door to outside. And this is where we discover, yeah, maybe this place is kind of like a spaceship. Now, what you'd expect if you were whisked away after bringing a strange, misshapen stone to an old church, being whisked up by an invisible nightmare creature, and then squeezed into death and awaking, is you wouldn't expect to be in a research hall. You would expect to be in something like the Nightmare Frontier. So, I think that it's really fascinating that we go first through the research hall. I think the thing that this tells us is that let's go in before we're invaded. We're already invaded. Is it some partnership or distinction at least between Bergenworth and the research hall is sort of what began it all. It's where it all began. Damn it, did you fall? You fucking scuttlebones. I really want to go back now, but I'm afraid I've been invaded already because that sinister bell. And our first silver beast, presented to us pretty fairly, sitting down with its back turned to us, letting us get a handle on what it takes exactly to kill them, what their health is like. Item. Some lead elixir. And we've got a pretty Cthulhu-looking elevator system. What any avid Miyazaki player will probably assume is an elevator system. It definitely is. It looks almost like you can drop down, but you can't. You just get hurt. Okay, am I being invaded or not? Because if I'm not, I should be able to use that lantern. And I don't want to delve quite too far into the Nightmare Frontier, because it's a scary place. You know? It's a beautiful place. It immediately shows us what it is that we're searching. Now, if you don't know what the amygdalae are for in the human brain, you should look them up. They're really fascinating, especially sort of how they've developed evolutionarily within humans compared to other creatures and other mammals. There are some biologists that believe that the amygdalae are the literal, like, origin point for nightmares, because it's a fear sensor. And some biologists believe that nightmares can serve a function in a brain, and that the function that they serve is to create test scenarios for, like, fight or flight instincts to be wisely employed in real life, so that you're not too overtaken by shock. And that the purpose of a nightmare is to sort of give a brain a test run at a fight or flight instinct, to give it experience. And the amygdala is incredibly active during these fight or flight responses. So in creatures like humans, which have relatively more complex goings-on in their brain, the amygdala are very active during dream states, and incredibly active during nightmare states. I don't even think I have enough to level up, do I? Maybe just barely? Maybe just barely?
Welcome. What is it you desire? Very well.
No. I'm still 7 grand away. That's fine. Honestly, I'm pretty high level, and so Bergamworth should be... and the path leading up to Bergamworth and the Forbidden Woods should actually be a pretty good run-up for the next video. I think we've been running for about hour 15. Alright, this will end part 10. Join me next time, and I'll head into the Forbidden Woods and Bergamworth.